Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Belle had the ability to summon heroic spirits. So in the last video we talked about how after one day basically, just like, one day, Belle is basically going to the dungeon with his heroic spirits. He would ask them if there's a way for him to basically summon more heroic spirits, because at this point it's starting to become a little bit tiresome, basically doing the same job over and over again, and wants to get some help. But, his heroic spirits would say that it's probably pretty impossible. I mean, because he was able to summon, like, multiple heroic spirits, specifically both, not really both, but more like, two out of the three, fairy knights, and also, Emiya Alter. And after saying this, not Izuka, and Belle would not be deterred, and would decide to, do it anyway. But his heroic spirits would also tell him that there's, how did he actually summon them? Well, he doesn't really know, because remember, in the first episode, he was in a trance at that point, while basically creating the summoning circle, and after telling him that, they would decide to teach him how to create a summoning circle. And so, after doing so, he would summon new, heroic spirits. In this case, these were Gilgamesh Caster, Europa, aka Rider, and finally, Koyanskaya of Light, or Koyanskaya, or, just Koyanskaya Assassin, which, god dang it, guys, I really want to see, like, Koyanskaya, of Darkness, because she's my favorite, mostly because she's able to summon, like, monsters. Like, seriously, that's just awesome. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, after, introducing themselves, some of them would ask, where are they, and if there's like what do you call it? Yeah, a Holy Grail war. After telling them no, and also telling them their whole situation, for, Europa, she was thinking, if the gods, or at least these gods are here, maybe I can, ask them if they do remember me, or at least sort of, she would say in her mind. But for, Koyatskaya, she wants to remake her, NFF services once again, to make it, a little bit more expensive to say the least. And as for Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh wants to make his, make a much more powerful familia after hearing that they're supposed to be working for gods. Even though he hates the gods, his master is still his master, so he has to listen to him. And also because, he's Caster Gilgamesh. I mean, he's actually pretty cool and not like a fucking bastard. Like his archer self. He's basically an older Gilgamesh, by the way, if you're asking. Anyway, continuing on. After encountering some monsters, they would start to fight, as Gilgamesh would show off his skills by summoning out several, magical wands and staffs to basically fire, blasts of magic. As for, Koyanskaya, she would use the guns on her back to basically fire off blasts and summon C4, or at least glowing pink C4. And as for, Europa, she would start using her bull to basically slam into everybody, while using her, harp to summon lightning out of the sky. Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Anyway, so, after, showing off their skills, Belle would basically tell them that they should probably get back to the surface. And after doing so, everybody was just, like, looking at them. But most of the guys were mostly looking at Koyanskaya. Yeah. Anyway, continuing on. After, getting their, getting their registrations and also telling them that they're members of the, SCF Familia, they would basically be given their, I guess you can say, like, their statuses, things of that sort. But even though they're technically more like, summons, aka Izuku, not Izuku, so I meant, Belle summons. Anyway, continuing on. After getting their Valis, they would start to leave, and by the way, after getting the Valis, aka, Gilgamesh getting it, he is now able to basically get infinite amounts of, like, Valis per day. Basically, he's basically, compound interest, or, like, the more Valis that he has, the more he's able to basically make with nothing. He's basically just like, I'm doing nothing, gets infinite Valis. That's basically what he is, because he got Golden Rule, aka one of the skills that he has. Anyway, so after arriving back at the, the broken down church, which Gilgamesh was not happy about, even saying that this place is not even worthy of a king like him. And after, telling them that this is, well, her, aka, Hestia, they would basically introduce themselves as, Hestia was pretty, happy that Belle got some new heroic spirits. And after doing so, all of them would basically, get ready to fall asleep. Or at least go to sleep. And so, all of them would fall asleep. As for Belle, he would basically fall asleep himself. So, yeah. So, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let us talk about what happens next. So, after waking up, all of them would basically just go around basically through the city and basically killing a lot of monsters. Yeah, pretty typical, but one day, while they're basically, leaving after a little, fight in the dungeon, and also getting their Valis, while they were leaving, they would notice the sounds of danger. Or really, but more like, the sounds of, panic. After hearing some of those sounds, he would basically, tell everybody to basically get ready in case of, a fight happening. After doing so, and by the way, if you're asking, or at least thinking, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna add, I'm not gonna be adding, what's her face? Yeah, Lily. Because, Lily, she's basically useless in my what ifs now. Or at least, this specific what if, because I don't really have any idea for Lily at all. And if you're wondering, yeah, I'm definitely, not gonna be adding, what's his also name? What is his other name? Sorry about that. They would start to hear the sound of panicking. Or at least the sound of panicking citizens, as after hearing this, Belle would say this, "Hey guys, be careful." As all of them would agree, and they would basically get ready their weapons. Or, or in, the case of, of Europa, it's just her heart. As after getting ready, they would start to hear the sound of monsters basically going through the town, basically ravaging the place. As they would see large bull-like monsters resembling, bulls with, with wings and, well, let's just say tiger claws. Yeah, a bit weird to say the least, but just imagine them just like that, as they would also see, other monsters nearby, like for example, kobolds, goblins, things of that sort, but they would also see something much more prominent. A large plant-like monster, which resembles a large Venus flytrap with several tentacles. As after seeing this, Belle would say this, "Alright guys," as they would basically get ready their weapons, as Europa would say this, "Now," as she would basically strum her, her harp, as a large lightning bolt would be sent towards some of the monsters nearby and would basically instantly disintegrate them. As for Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh would summon out tons, and I mean tons of wands from the sky from his, Gate of Babylon, as it would shoot out a rain of, a rain of energy made of golden light, as it would explode everything on sight. As for, wait for a second, for Koyanskaya would, as after, doing that, we also see, Koyanskaya getting ready her, glowing pink, machine guns and rifles, as they would start shooting at, all of the monsters nearby. As for Emiya would summon a few swords out of nowhere and would start kicking them towards, some of the monsters, basically impaling them to the ground. As for Melusine and Burgeist and Melusine would do her own thing, like both of them would do their own thing, and basically start slamming, basically punching the monsters nearby, and also, Burgeist basically slicing them up with her large-ass sword, and basically doing like a scorpion, and basically doing, "Get over here," with her, chains, and basically, stabbing them right in the stomach, or something of that sort. As for Belle would basically see the large plant monsters still terrorizing, terrorizing the area, as after Belle saw this, Belle would basically, reaches out for his two blades, as he would say this, "Now, face the flaming, face the, wait for a second, now, face the blade, sorry about that, wait for a second, now, face the flaming justice, the judgment of my swords," as after saying that, he would basically, puts his swords in, crush, like a, X motion, as he would basically launches a torrent of, purplish, blackish flames towards, the monster, aka the plant monster, as it would slice it instantly in half. After doing so, it would basically land nearby, destroyed, and would basically form into a monster core. After doing so, he would basically grab the monster core and would put it in his bag. As for the rest of his zero experience, they would finish up the job and would basically grab some of the monster cores nearby. As Bell would also, notice a few of the, citizens nearby are basically gone. As after doing so, Bell would say this, "Hey," as he would look towards, Gilgamesh, as Gilgamesh says this, "What is it, Master?" As he would say this, "We should probably start to get going. I mean, what if there's other citizens nearby and are being attacked by some monsters?" As he would say this, "Guess it's time for me to show them why they call me the King of Heroes," he would say. As Bo would say this, "Then show them," he would say. After doing so, Gilgamesh would start moving out of the way and would start leaving to go towards, where, some citizens might be nearby. After doing so, we go to the perspective of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh has been, going through, through the alleyways as he would say this. I wonder if there's any monsters nearby." After doing so, he would arrive at a little, large area. As after doing so, he would walk towards a pretty large area with a large, cage-like area. More specifically, like there's several bars on a nearby bridge. As he would say this, "What is this? It seems more like a prison," he would say. After looking at the bars, he would notice that it seems to be enhanced with magic, or at least this world's magic, which he can tell is pretty weak, like compared to like compared to a low-ranking magi or magus. Well, compared to that, it's like if freaking it's like comparing like a Lamborghini, aka a a Lamborghini to as in the Lamborghini. I mean the Lamborghini is like the magus in question, and the magic of this world, aka the Damanchi world, is like looking at a Honda Civic, one of those cheap ones. Yeah. So, after looking at the powerful magic that's within it, or at least not as powerful magic, but powerful here, he would start looking up and would see some sort of large monster that resembles some sort of like white gorilla with a helmet and a large sword on its on its arm. After looking at it, he would say this. Hmm. I guess you. I'm guessing you're the monster here, he would say. As the gorilla would start trying to, slice through the bars, as it would not work, as it seems to be, struggling by trying to, by ripping the cage apart. But, it's still pretty much, useless. As Gilgamesh would say this. Pathetic, he would say. But, I will let you out this time. I've been looking for a great fight for a while now. After doing so, he would snap his fingers and after doing so, several, portals would appear as some of the, wands and staffs would basically, explode the entire, cage. After doing so, the gorilla would start charging in towards him as he would say this. "Now, fight me," he would say, as he would start grabbing his axe and would start meleeing him. Even though he's a caster, he can still do pretty good in, wait for a second. As after doing so, the monster would still be fighting, but one of its arms that used to have the sword would basically be gone. After seeing it, it would start screaming out in pain as it would start charging towards him once again as it would punch the ground where it used to be. As Gilgamesh would just be in the sky floating. As he would say this, "Not really as powerful as I thought," he would say, as he would basically point his staff axe combo as several, several, magic circles, not really magic circles, but more like, several portals would basically appear as several of the staffs and also, magical items would basically appear as they would shoot off blasts once again and would start piercing through, the large gorilla-like monster. A few citizens would be nearby, including some of the members of the Loki Familia, which also heard about, Bell having a new member, as they were just like, in awe seeing him, as one of them would say this. "Is he really a magician?" All of them would say, as one of them would say this. "Yeah, he seems like he's able to use magic, but also able to do things in close combat, which is quite useful, he would say, said, yeah, said Finn. As after saying this, Bet would just say, "Duh, whatever," she would say, as she would look back towards, a nearby area, as she would say this. I'm gonna be going. I might find that stupid rabbit over there. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Stupid rabbit? As she would say this. Yeah, you mean that, bell guy, she would say. As one of them would say this. Oh, I didn't know that you liked the guy. As after saying this, she would start to blush as she would say this. I don't like him, she would say. Besides, I just think of him as a useless piece of shit, she would say. As she would start leaving. As one of them would say this. Tsundere. All of them would just say in their minds, except for, eyes for some odd reason. So, yeah, continuing on. After a while of fighting, Gilgamesh would say this. How pathetic. You're not even worthy of getting my full brunt attack, including my noble phantasm. How truly pathetic, he would say, as he would basically wave his hand, and several, large, structures would basically appear. As these structures would start, pulsing out a bit of energy, as he would say this now. Fire! After saying that, large blasts made out of pure, light would basically appear as it would explode, the large monster in an instant. After doing so, several of the people would just be amazed, as all of them would just think, is he stronger than I? All of them would say, as after hearing this, he would say this. That was easy. And thank you for the compliment, he would say, as he would start to leave. So, going back with Bell. So, Bell is currently taking care of some monsters nearby, as he would start shooting them with his, with his flintlock pistol type guns. As while he was doing this, he would basically grab his sword, or at least, the broadsword that he uses, as he would put it in his mouth, Zorro style, as he would start slashing all of them while shooting his guns. As while he was doing this, Bet would finally arrive and would see Bell basically taking on all the monsters by himself, as she would say this. He thinks that he's better than me, she would say. As after saying this, she would start charging in towards, towards some of the monsters nearby, as she would start fighting them. As while she was fighting them, she would get distracted, as one of them would basically bonk her on the head. After doing so, she would fall on the ground, as she would see a large monster looming over her. This monster resembles an orc. You know what happens, boys. If you know Goblin Slayer, you probably know what's gonna happen next. So, we see, Bet about to be, let's just say doing something horrible, as, the orc is about to, yeah, let's just say do that. And she would start screaming out, don't you dare, she would say, but she's being held down by a few, goblin-like monsters. When the orc is about to, do the deed, she would see a large splatter of blood instead of, that. So, after seeing this, she would basically wipe off the blood, as she would see Bell basically stabbing the orc in the stomach, as he would say this. Don't even dare. As he would basically, just throw the damn monster basically away, as it would turn into a monster core. A pretty big one, in fact. After doing so, he would basically look towards, Bet, and would see, some of the goblins basically running away, as he would say this. Oh, no, you don't, he would say, as he would basically grab, two of his, rifles, not really rifles, but more like, flintlock pistols, as he would fire them towards, both of the goblins, as he would pierce, 4 each, like, with 2 bullets, basically piercing through them, through the heart, specifically. As after doing so, they would basically fall to the ground and turn into, monster crystals. Or monster cores. After doing so, he would basically look at Bet, as he would say this. You okay? She would say this. If I ever... there's no way that I needed your help. Besides, I could just handle it myself, she would say. As Bo would say this. Yeah, sure. And you're about to get at before he can, before he can actually say it, she would basically throw a fiery punch towards him. But thankfully he dodged, as he would say this. A bit feisty, he would say. And I even, saved you. Mind a little bit, mind telling me why you you did that. I mean, I did technically save you, as she would say this. I don't need saving, and besides, I'm not some damsel or something, she would say, as he would say this. Fine, your loss, he would say, as he would basically start to leave with the rest of his group, as he would say this. Oh yeah, by the way, maybe next time try not to be so... How do I say this? Oh yeah, so damn, cute when you're basically in that defensive position, he would say. As she would start to blush, as she would say this. Why, you, she would say, as before she can do anything else, one of her members, or specifically one of her, familiar members, specifically the ginger-haired, yeah, the ginger-haired girl, aka the elf, would say this. Beth, what are you doing here? As Beth would say this. Huh? What are you doing here, Runt? She would say. As after saying this, she would say this. Well, Loki wants to talk with you, and it's pretty urgent. As she would say this. Fine. As she would look back at Belle, as she would say this. You're lucky that I didn't have to fight you. Besides, you can definitely get defeated by me easily, she would say. As Belle would say this. Oh yes. And you almost got killed by me last time, he would say, with a, cocky grin, as she would say this. Why, you, she would say, as she would start becoming a little bit mad. As after saying this, Belle would basically say, alright, gotta go back to my familia. As he would start leaving to, to where, his, familia is, aka the Hestia familia. So, after leaving, we go to the perspective of the Loki familia. Currently, after we arrive back at, where Loki is, as Loki would say this. So, Bet, mind telling me why you decide to abandon your, familia to the rest of the other monsters nearby, as she would say this. I want to show that damn rabbit who's his superior, she would say, as she would say this. Rabbit? As she would say this, specifically, yeah, Eyes, as Eyes would say this. She's talking about Mr. Bell, as in Mr. Bell Cornell of the Hestia familia. As she would say this. Oh yeah, that guy. And seriously, how is he that powerful? And did that runt actually try to, did that short stack actually, gotten a new member just by their, power alone? Like seriously, she would say. I'm starting to think that they should have just, stolen that guy in the first place, she would say with a drunken tone. Anyway, by the way, Bet, maybe next time try not to, try and get into him. And besides, I'm starting to think that you're probably trying to get him, on purpose. Or are you perhaps in love? But before she can say anything else, she would basically slam her fist onto the, onto the desk of Loki, as she would say this. Do not. Besides, I do not like him. And besides, as she would basically have a disgusted face. She would say, why would I ever like that guy? He's pretty weak, she would say, as one of them would say this. Ah yes, and you almost got defeated by him in the, in the tavern last time. As she would say this. Whatever, she would say, as she would start getting out of her, getting out of the room, as she would say this. I'm going back to bed, she would say. And she would basically close the door and would be, and we would see her basically leaving. So, currently with Bet, as Bet is saying to herself, why did I lose? Why did I get beaten? Why did I get stunned by that guy? She would say, that stupid rabbit, she would say, as she would start, becoming a little bit, red in the face after seeing his face. That cocky smile. As she would start, clenching her hair, as she would say this. Damn rabbit, she would say, as she would start becoming a little bit mad. As she would decide, just to shut up already. As, after doing so, she would start looking at, her bedroom. Her bedroom is pretty normal-ish. I mean, it's not really girly, it's more, more like a man's thing than anything else. There's a few posters and a little bit of, alcohol nearby, as she would notice the, calendar. As she would have wide eyes, I should say this. No. Oh shit, she would say, as she would see that, tomorrow is going to be mating season. Oh boy. As she would say this. This is, she would say, as she would say this, don't tell me. Duh, great, it's gonna be mating season tomorrow. Shit, 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 she would say, as she would become a little bit, angry, as she would say this. Alright, I should probably lock myself in my room for now. I just hope I don't go all crazy like last time, she would say. As she would remember last time. As she would remember, back in her day, she was basically, in heat, like, really much in heat, as she was starting to look for any man that she can find, as all of the male members of the Loki family are basically running away in fear. And let's just say, after a while of basically chasing after some men, well, she was captured and was forced to basically stop. As in forced, I mean literally, ball gagged and basically, strapped to strapped to her fucking bed. As after remembering that, that event, she would start becoming a little bit flustered as she would say this. Okay, Bet, just go to sleep. As she would basically grab a bottle of, whiskey, as she would start drinking it, basically chugging it, as she would basically put it onto her table, and would basically try to fall asleep. But, for some odd reason, every time when she closes her eyes, she would see Belle. Belle with this cocky smile and, kind face. Or at least kind in her mind. As she would also remember how she saved them many times. But, would also start to have a feeling in her stomach. More specifically, the feeling of hunger. And it's not the hunger that you usually think, eh? As she would say this. You stupid white rabbit, she would say. As she would start tossing and turning, all over the night. Until midnight, at least. As she would start wetting her bed, as she would say this. White rabbit, she would say. As she would start, clenching her head even more, as she would say this. Just give me, she would say. As she would start feeling hot and bothered all over her body. As her body would start to sweat a lot. As she would start having a little bit of, panting in her voice. As she would start moving towards her, shorts. Or more specifically, her, short shorts. As she would start, going through, let's just say, under the rug, let's just say that. And would start, having a bit of fun with herself, let's just say that. As we currently see Bet now already in heat. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna be ending this episode right off here. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!